Vladimir Putin just issued a warning to Donald Trump. Not about Ukraine, not even about Russia, but about something much deeper, a trap laid generations ago. And now, it's unfolding before our eyes. The trap Putin is warning about? It goes back to a name you've probably never heard in school, General Albert Pike. The man who allegedly predicted not one, not two, but 3 world wars. And now, the blueprint for the third is in motion. This war, it isn't about America. It's not even about Iran. It's about control. A crisis big enough to tear down the old systems and force a new one into place. And if you think Trump is behind the wheel, Putin says think again. While leaders talk war, the media sells the script. CNN, Fox, BBC, doesn't matter. They're not informing you, they're programming you. Because the CIA doesn't just run black ops, it runs narratives. Iran isn't chasing the bomb. They're building something more dangerous. Independence from the petrodollar. A railway. A corridor of energy that cuts out the West. No IMF. No SWIFT. No US Navy. And no permission from the West. That's what really triggered this. The global economy is shifting. And Washington's maximum pressure campaign backfired. Then there's Israel, the globalist enforcer in the region. And according to a former U.S. colonel, it's been inside the Pentagon since 2002.
And it's unquestionable that the Epstein business was heavily influenced, let me put it that way, by Mossad.
And so that's somehow emblematic on these huge geopolitical issues.
Yes, I watched Mossad take over the Pentagon. In 2002, the Pentagon was infiltrated by Mossad. They did not need any identification to get through the river entrance of the building. They went upstairs to Douglas Feith, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, the 3rd most powerful man in the Defense Department. Occasionally, they went to the 2nd most powerful man, Paul Wolfowitz, the Deputy Secretary of Defense. And they had run of the Pentagon. Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, said to my boss one time, "Hell, I don't run my building. Mossad does."
And when the U.S. bombed Iran's nuclear sites, they didn't stop the program. They supercharged it. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev just confirmed it. And it's no longer just about Iran building weapons. Other countries may be willing to hand them over. Far from collapsing, Iran has united. Even moderates are now backing the hardliners. Instead of weakening the regime, the West made it stronger. Now, we're one spark away from a full-scale invasion. And here's the terrifying part. Iran is prepared to exit the nuclear treaty. This won't be like Iraq. Iran's terrain is a fortress, and a ground war would be unwinnable. So, how did we get convinced this was even necessary? Through movies. The CIA has had a Hollywood division for decades, and they've been scripting our enemies since before the first drone strike. Even Julian Assange warned us years ago. A film about WikiLeaks. But the opening scene? An Iranian nuclear bomb. No evidence, just fiction. And every frame of it cleared by intelligence agencies. It's not about one agency. It's about the whole machine. Government, media, Hollywood, all working hand in glove. And behind it, the same corporations, pushing for the same wars, year after year. Lies that make it through Hollywood don't do so by accident. They get approved because the system wants the war. And if that's true, then who does Hollywood really work for?
But it is not just an attack against us. It is an attack against Iran. It fans the flames to start a war with Iran. And it's coming out in November. It's being filmed now. Benedict Cumberbatch is playing me. This movie has British involvement, and people in Britain should be concerned about it. How does it open? Well, and this has not been previously disclosed before, the opening scene is in a military complex in Tehran. The camera comes in, closes up on a file, and it is a design for a nuclear bomb marked with nuclear symbols. There's notes and whispers all around, and they're in Farsi, they're in Persian. There's an older scientist speaking. A high-speed camera will measure the explosive charge we've designed to trigger the chain reaction. It is then revealed by the camera 4 scientists in white coats walking in a windowless corridor. The youngest, Simsana, remember that name, Simsana, writes on the file, "The dimensions of the payload are consistent with a Shabab missile." Okay, that's the opening scene. Iran is working on an atomic weapon. The opening scene of a film about WikiLeaks. How does this have anything to do with us? Well, we'll come to it. The next scene concerning Iran is in Cairo, where that Iranian nuclear scientist is meeting a US CIA agent, Kate. Close up again on the handwritten diagram of a nuclear bomb, the same diagram as we saw in the opening. And Saman says, "I copied it from memory." I copied it from memory. They're testing the explosive in the next 6 months. Now remember what Tom's National Intelligence Estimate found. Iran did not have a nuclear program. All 16 US intelligence agencies feeding into that report said that was the case with high confidence and has been reconfirmed every year since that point. The senior diplomat, who's also at the table with the CIA agent, says, "Shit, we thought they were at least 3 years away from a bomb." Another lie. Tom's report does not say that they're 3 years away from a nuclear bomb. So it's a lie upon a lie, a great big budget thing that's going to be pushed out in November. The Iranian nuclear scientist then says, if it works, they won't hesitate to sell the technology. And even if one of these things, if it works, they won't hesitate to sell the technology. And even if one of these things gets into the wrong hands, they'll sell it anyway. So that's the reality of where we're at. Not merely a war of intelligence agencies, but a war of corrupt media, corrupt culture. That war, we have got to understand, people who have appeared on this panel have been involved, sometimes with great sacrifice, at revealing the truth about important parts of the world, how the world is unfolding, how the world is shaping, the nature of institutions. They have revealed it heroically, in many cases, to the historical record, to our civilization as a whole, to you. You have to understand that where there's great powers at work, I don't mean shadow conspiracies, I mean enormous cultural powers, enormous industrial powers, the vast network of corporations that interact with government agencies around the world, selling them products, shipping their logistics from one place to another. The National Security Agency, for example, now has approximately 70% of its expenditure pass through Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, etc. This produces a lobby that pushes in particular directions. How is it that such a lie got into a script about WikiLeaks? How is it that in the light of that national intelligence estimate that anyone could think that it was tolerable, acceptable to foist that lie upon the public, that it would make it all the way through the Hollywood system, that distributors would pick it up? Because they perceive that that is where the power lies in the United States. They perceive that it's perfectly okay to slander an entire nation, that it's perfectly okay to beat the drums of war like that, because people in that system want the war. They want it.
Putin's warning echoes something darker. A prophecy that sounds insane until you check history. General Albert Pike wrote that the elite would orchestrate 3 global wars. The first 2? Shockingly accurate. The third? A war between the Islamic world and Zionism. It's happening. Economic collapse, civil unrest, moral exhaustion. And then a solution. A centralized global government. That's the playbook. That's the trap. And Putin is warning Trump not to walk into it. But the fuse has already been lit. This war isn't about Iran. It's not about Israel. It's not even about Trump. It's about reshaping the entire world. And if we keep buying the script, we'll wake up in a reality we never agreed to. We know you no longer see our videos. Unfortunately, our channel has been pushed in the shadows. So if you happen to come across our video, ensure to like, comment, and subscribe to hopefully help one more person discover us.